Like, ride with me if you ride with me, you can slide with me if you feel like 550 on the 5 sticky, come get high with me, that's a deal, right? Ride with me if you ride.
Hey, so this is Lefty and Chipa with Umbet, and we are going to be reviewing the Lopez Ortiz fight. And, um, so, okay.
Just get into it, right?
Good news first. Good news is we basically had both picks as far as boxers winning. If you want to be nitpicky, we picked the over because we didn't know that Pedraza watched Rocky right before he went out. and, and we picked Lopez. We actually nailed that one. But yeah, so we made money. Like, I had to make an adjustment because I couldn't do the type of bet that I wanted to. I kept waiting and waiting and waiting, and 3 p.m. came around, and I just pulled the trigger on some chalky bet that only got our account up to 30. Like, we made like 30% on that, and so it wasn't like the best outcome. And it turned out that it carried a lot more risk as opposed to the amount of profit that we made, but profit is still profit. And it's just, number one, my primary takeaway is you'd expect someone that everyone considers to be world class able to cut off a ring when the guy's going to his right all night, but he did not, and that's Lopez. And what were your initial thoughts on the fight?
So we knew Lopez would probably come out slow, and he seemed like he tried to, pick it up even, I'd say, mid-second round. He tried to, but like you said, he ran into technical difficulties. I don't know if it's a training issue or what, but his camp should have prepared him for the fact that Ortiz is a southpaw and he can fight orthodox. They didn't obviously prepare him. He had a struggle with cutting off the ring, so he took it to the scorecards, and he barely made it on the scorecards. If I'm really honest, I'd say for the whole fight, I would have called it a draw because he didn't really do enough to win. He was slightly more aggressive. He landed slightly a few more power punches, but when it's all said and done, he really didn't do enough to retain. And then Ortiz, he came out a little bit better. He didn't just go out there wailing and windmilling his arms, right? A lot of his fights, he goes out there, he wails, he windmills his arms, and he ends up in a situation where he's gassed out. Well, he still got gassed out because the way he was using his legs, he was bouncy. So the way that he was using his legs, what happens? Your legs will come out from under you. If Ortiz had found a way to effectively cut off the ring in that southpaw stance, Ortiz would have caught one and his legs would have been gone really, really quickly because that style of movement was just, it's not
Economic.
Yeah, it's not economical when you're looking at going the whole 12 rounds. Like, you're going to lose your legs and you're going to catch one in the chin, and 9 times out of 10 you're going to meet the mat, period. So I wouldn't, like you said, it was a fight. It really wasn't a fight. That was, I don't know, it was pity pat. So when it's all said and done, it was not something that was first. It wasn't everything that they claimed it was going to be. It definitely wasn't a show for the greatest showman. It definitely wasn't. I think out of anything, Ortiz, you could walk away and respect him just a little bit more. But I just wish that both fighters would have actually gone out there and boxed it, like actually, put some power behind what they were doing. It just, you wouldn't have thought that was a good matchup to begin with. So
I don't know. Technically, like Chipa is 100% correct, and this is because Ortiz, he's left-handed, but he switches. So if he was 100% in that southpaw stance all the time, which up until that point he had not really done in a fight, right?
No, he hadn't. No.
So what he should be doing is, instead of laterally moving, you can shuffle once to your right. Like, first of all, you should be varying your, which door you're going to come out of, your left or your right. He was right all night. That's what makes this so bad on Lopez, is that he knew which way he was going. He still couldn't cut it off.
Yeah.
But other than that, you want to do like a shuffle and then pivot. And when Teofimo swings wild like he had been, that's when you stop and pop and you drop a 1-2 on him.
Yep.
And if he does that and rinses and repeats, he wins the fight easy.
Yeah, there was definitely a good opportunity for, was it
Ortiz?
For Ortiz to basically counter Lopez and catch him, and catch him well, but he missed it. But I think, I'll be honest with you, I think also his energy was sapped, because I think that's the first time he ever had to discipline himself to stay southpaw the whole time. So, that takes a lot of work, especially if you're used to, like, you can switch and then switch back. And then you see boxers kind of do that. It was a concerted effort for him to stay southpaw, which, again, is that the type of brain power you want to use when you're going against someone and you're trying to, take away the belt, I don't think that was a smart move or a smart strategy for him. It was a good strategy initially in the early rounds, but once you hit that middle of the fight and you're starting to get gassed, at this point, you don't need to waste your energy in southpaw. You need to handle it in the right side and go for some shots.
I think the reason why he went southpaw was he knew that he could control the action, and Teofimo's style, it's a counter-punching style, and he has struggled with boxers out of the southpaw stance before. And if you're an orthodox fighter and you throw a right hand, he's going to look to shoulder roll and counter with his own right hand. Right. And he's got that nailed. Like, that's muscle memory at this point for him. So that's why Ortiz went southpaw. But also, if you're pivoting right off of your lead foot and you got foot positioning, you're not using up as much legs as you would have if you're doing what Ortiz did for 12 rounds.
Right.
And you're probably going to outthrow Lopez 1.5 to 2 to 1.
Right.
So that right there is the fight. And
well, I'll say this too. There was one thing that Ortiz did several times where Lopez came in and Ortiz was able to get around him. He'd step around him and then Lopez would turn around and have to do a whole 180 to get face to face again. So
well, that's what I'm saying.
Because I thought that was a decent move, but he just wasn't using even that effectively, I don't think.
Well, he's got to punch off that.
Yeah.
And he didn't.
Yeah, he didn't. Yeah, exactly. That's why I said he didn't use it effectively, because those were some times where Lopez were really vulnerable. He really had an open shot to, knock his behind out, but he didn't. So
I mean, at the end of the day, both fighters did themselves a disservice. For instance, I seen Lopez speak. Like he had an interview on Pro Box TV with Chris Algieri and other guy that's there, and they point blank asked him, "Can you tell us why you weren't, cutting off the ring, right?" And he basically said that Ortiz was running and it was hard to catch him, and he wanted to fight and he wanted to make the fight, and it's basically on Ortiz. And what tells me that Lopez is going to struggle going forward against elite boxers that make him come forward is the fact that he put the onus on Ortiz and not on himself.
That's right.
So he's the other guy's fault that Lopez can't hit him. Right. And it's like you'd be able to hit him if your footwork wasn't trash.
Right.
But what's he going to do? He's not going to fire his dad, which he needs tomorrow. Right. And, it's just one of those things where, he better not fight anybody any good.
That's right. Well, and not only that, but on top of that, it's Ortiz's fault for running. He calls it running, but that's strategy. There wasn't a time where you just see it. I haven't seen running since Mayweather. And so, I wouldn't consider that running. He stood toe to toe when it was time to try to exchange for a little while. He was just conscientious about what hits he was going to take, knowing that Lopez is pretty wild and understanding that it was a different situation. I think one of my favorite quotes in the whole boxing match was the lackluster offensive performance by both men. And that was a perfect description. That's what the announcers were saying. It was lackluster. It definitely was. It really wasn't. I was upset that they gave it to Lopez. I understand they don't want to take the belt on a draw, but that was a draw if I ever seen one, really.
Well, if it's a draw, then Lopez keeps the belt anyway.
Right.
But for me, the vibe I was getting as I was watching the fight, and I said this, if Ortiz wins the fight, Lopez is going to be upset, but he's got nobody to blame for himself.
Yeah.
But himself. And if Lopez wins, Ortiz only has himself to blame, because here's the thing. You're 135 pounds and you're throwing barely 30 punches around, and you expect them to give you the belt on Super Bowl weekend against ESPN's baby?
Yeah.
On his network?
Right.
You're the B-side?
Right. And not only that, I mean, the landing percentage, Lopez, and I guess if you're going to look at this, is probably why they didn't call it a draw. Lopez landed probably less than 2% more than Ortiz did. Now, take that as it may, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's less than 2%, but it's still over what Ortiz landed. So therefore, like you said, they're not just going to take the belt from, a favored person when you didn't work for it. Had he been just a little bit more aggressive in every round, or landed more power shots, because both of them were throwing power shots, just not landing them, not landing them effectively. And I think maybe even not using them to their best advantage, throughout the whole fight. So when you have a fight where you can say the power shots were at such a low percentage, then I'd say it's going to be a crap fight. And as mean as that sounds, it was really a crap fight.
Yeah, I can't agree more. Teofimo really got exposed, and he better not fight anybody any good until he gets his footwork together, and I don't think that's going to happen, just because he feels like he did nothing wrong.
Right.
So,
well, yeah, you have to own it. If you don't own it, then guess what? You know, and I don't know if that's a part of it, is maybe he knows and he's just saving face, and he'll go and correct it in the training room or when they watch the tape or whatever. But if that's not the case, if he really feels like it was Ortiz's fault, then he's got some problems as a boxer coming up. I don't see him lasting too much long. His career is going to be very short-lived, because honestly, you know, he's gonna call out. During one of the interviews, didn't he call out like Crawford?
Yeah,
he skipped Haney.
That's out the window. Haney is gonna lay him out. And Haney doesn't lay anybody out.
Right.
But that's, you know, he loses against anybody elite at 140. Now, if there's a fighter that comes forward that happens to be elite, then he's got a shot. But if you have to make Teofimo come forward, it's a wrap. And the reason why that is because when he comes forward, he brings his back foot up.
Yeah.
And he's square. Yeah. And then he takes his front foot and moves that forward. That's like the complete opposite of what you're supposed to be doing.
Well, and he lands off balance quite a bit. And that's how I think even that when he was doing that was part of the reason why Ortiz was able to get behind him. The problem is Ortiz didn't optimize because he didn't punch through that. But you know, when it's all said and done, hey, how about the absence of a jab? The jabs were like non-existent. You know, they weren't getting combos, but let's talk about what sets up the combo. What sets up the combo is a jab. And at this level, you should be seeing that frequently in the dang ring. It just wasn't there.
Yeah, so it's just he's got to be better. Also, the matchmaking has got to be, you know, like ESPN has got to be cognizant of who they put Teofimo in the ring with. And here's the thing. Ortiz, he by being conservative, he actually gambled the most.
Yeah.
And the reason why that is because he was being conservative in the ring, like we've been talking about for the last 20 minutes, but also he didn't win the fight. Yeah. If you're going to be that conservative in the ring, then you have to win.
Yeah.
Because not only did you add another loss to your record, but now nobody wants to fight you.
Yeah.
And no promoter wants you on their card.
That's right.
Because you went out there and you threw 30 punches around. Now, if you do that and you get the win, you're good.
Yeah, it was a strategy move. And then you do it and you get the loss. Now nobody wants you. But what's bigger than that is this was supposed to be your grudge match. You know what I'm saying? You came out there, told the announcers, this is my grudge match. I don't respect him because he beat me before, so on and so forth. So yeah, I mean, you showed that you have knowledge of how he works by stepping into the ring southpaw. But what you didn't do is you didn't make use of all the other opportunities that were there. So like you don't show no initiative, and because you didn't show any initiative, you show me somebody that's not even entertainment. That fight was not entertainment. If somebody paid for that fight, i.e. all of the, you know, ESPN Plus subscribers, they got cheated because that fight was not entertainment at all.
I just feel sorry for the people that went in the stadium and bought a ticket. But
oh, dude, yeah, no kidding.
Other than that, like, look, on Unbet, we're going to tell you, like, how it is. And we came out and told you last week that we had, you know, Keyshawn Davis. I didn't even, like, make it known specifically that, you know, like I had to do some adjustments on the fly. I assumed that a bet was going to be there that never showed up, but everyone knew Keyshawn Davis was going to win. That's why it was minus 1,000, right? But you got two Puerto Ricans on Unbet that bet against 2 Puerto Ricans.
Right. That's right.
And we're bombing them both because Pedraza went out there and fought the dumbest fight that you could ever fight.
Ever.
Like one, I'm not going to take up too much time, but basically everything that he usually does, that he does well, he did not do.
That's right.
And so it was an easy
What
win.
got him that fight? That's not what he did to maximize and take away from that. He was gassed out by the end of the 3rd round, dude.
Right. And
I don't understand that. That was totally,
because that's not his style. That's not his style. And he was square for large parts of that fight. But hey, all that matters is that we're up about 5 units. And we're gonna keep going, and
the
we're
good news is cha-ching. That's the good news.
You take wins when you could get them.
Right.
So, hey, this is Lefty and Chipa and Bet. Peace.